TransCanada's Keystone XL Pipeline would increase carbon pollution, endanger private property and farmland, and contaminate water sources already threatened by drought, including the Ogallala Aquifer, the nation's largest underground water source used by more than 3 million people. The pipeline would not decrease U.S. dependence on foreign oil, stabilize oil prices in the U.S., or reduce gasoline prices at the pump, because it is an export pipeline. A foreign company, TransCanada, wants to transport its dangerous, corrosive tar sands crude from Alberta, Canada, across Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma to a free trade zone in Port Arthur, Texas. From Texas, it's headed overseas to China and other countries, not for domestic use in the U.S. This is a sweet, tax-free deal for TransCanada, but not for us in Oklahoma and the U.S. In spite of exaggerated employment promises, the pipeline may destroy more jobs than it creates, according to Sean Sweeney, director of the Cornell ILR Global Labor Institute. Quote, "This includes jobs lost due to consumers in the Midwest paying 10 to 20 cents more per gallon of gasoline and diesel fuel, as Keystone XL diverts oil from refineries in the Midwest to the Gulf region." End quote. Refining tar sands crude results in emissions of sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, sulfuric acid mist, and toxic metals. The toxic metals found in tar sands oil are neurotoxins that contain 11 times more sulfur, 11 times more nickel, 6 times more nitrogen, and 5 times more lead than conventional oil. And what do we get in return? Dangerous leaks and spills of corrosive tar sands crude oil. Transporting corrosive raw tar sands crude through a pipeline leads to spills and leaks, 30 by the first Keystone pipeline in its first year of operation. A TransCanada tar sands pipeline built in 2010 from Canada to Oklahoma spilled 11 times in 1 year. We know pipeline spills can happen pretty close to home. Only weeks after the State Department released a revised report downplaying Keystone XL pipeline dangers, 2 tar sand spills occurred in the U.S., including Exxon's Pegasus pipeline disaster, which poured hundreds of thousands of gallons of corrosive tar sands crude into Arkansas neighborhoods near the town of Mayflower. From the beginning, Intrex, the company paid by the U.S. State Department to do the final environmental impact study on the Keystone XL pipeline in August 2011, had a conflict of interest. Intrex produced a flawed study that didn't address negative environmental impacts and safety risks, allegedly because that company had financial ties to TransCanada, the company building the pipeline. The State Department faced a double conflict of interest charge over allowing TransCanada's chief Washington lobbyist, Paul Elliott, to handle the Keystone XL permit application. Elliott was also a top official in former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's 2008 presidential campaign. 2 consulting firms, Insys Energy and ICF International, that provided analysis for the State Department on the supplemental environmental impact statement, have ties to oil and pipeline companies that could benefit from the Keystone XL pipeline. Insys Energy worked with ExxonMobil, BP, and Koch Industries, which own oil sands production facilities and refineries. ICF International does not list specific clients on their website, but also works with pipeline and oil companies. Oil and natural gas have been the backbone of the Oklahoma economy for at least 100 years. Oklahomans never met an oil lease they didn't like, until now. TransCanada's toxic tar sands crude is not our kind of oil. In fact, it's in direct, tax-free competition with Oklahoma oil and natural gas producers and is headed for export to other countries, not for our use at the gas pumps in the U.S. This is a classic war between those who want to make as much money as possible and those who want to protect human health, the earth, and their own property rights. With stakes this high, There is no excuse to approve the Keystone XL Tarsands Pipeline. For all of these reasons, we ask President Obama, Secretary of State John Kerry, and those of you representing the U.S. State Department to reject the Keystone XL Toxic Tar Sands Pipeline permit.